50 miles out doesn't sound bad considering it could be a 250-mile run. But there's what those currents are looking like, the temperatures looking like through those canyons and valleys. Welcome on board of the Sport Fishing Championship. I'm Robbie Floyd. Ronnie Moore down there courtside, or shall I say Gulf of Mexico side. Ronnie, we see one boat, I believe it was Bandito took off left. Everybody else heading out to the right as we look towards shore.
Yeah, based on Robbie, the 80 boat field taking off from our takeoff here this week. Maybe Bandito, hey, they didn't want to get in the waves of all the other boats. Let's take a shortcut. Let's run closer to the coast. It looks like they did that. But like you said, 150, maybe 200 plus miles for a lot of these teams. They were all prepped, ready to go with a bunch of fuel and extra fuel bladders to get it done this week.
Yeah, we've heard them talking about it before, hundreds and hundreds of gallons to hit their fishing waters. And not only that, they have to get back as well. That's what happened to Southern Charm in Louisiana, because they did not get back in time and their points did not count. But looking at our points, everybody's looking for the blue marlin, and especially that first blue marlin. Ronnie, we heard one of the anglers talking about it just a moment ago, because you get an extra 100 bonus points for that first blue.
100%. There are teams that walk the docks the last 2 or 3 days here in the marina that saw the fuel bladders, how full they are for some of these teams. They know that they may be making long initial runs. That extra 100 points for catching and tagging, releasing the first blue marlin will be in some teams' game plan, seeing how far some of these other teams may be running.
Whites add up, sails add up, spears, maybe see those swordfish. As far as the local side, I don't think we're going to be seeing any of those. They don't count towards the local event side. Ronnie, things are looking good right now there. I know they're always good in the studio, but I hear rain's in the forecast, at least on shore. What are you going to be dealing with, and what are these boaters dealing with as they head out into the Gulf of Mexico?
Whatever weather gets thrown our way, I'm flexible here on land. The one thing I was worried about is the weather out there. Postponed tournaments in the past, things of that sort, making it hard to navigate, especially some of these long runs. I was worried about it out there, but the weather forecast out in the Gulf looks pristine for some of these teams. Like they said in those pre-tournament interviews, speed can be a factor. Some of these guys are loaded for bear, ready to make a long, fast run to get to those areas where we've seen some of the biggest blue marlin in the Gulf targeted the last few weeks.
Taking a look at some of the scenes for this morning. You saw that LSU flag blowing in the wind. They were sitting still, but it did look like it had a little breeze. The bigger the boat might be able to power through those waves a little bit better. Not as many center consoles as we would see maybe in an Atlantic Division stop like our last round, where they're going to be going back and forth each day.
There will be some team. I saw a couple leading the fleet out this morning that, they may be in the tuna pots. They may be in the wahoo, the championship division fish, the mahi-mahi, all of that. We saw our biggest yellowfin tuna caught and brought in here by Drew Phillips last year, 206.9 pounds. I know some teams are keeping an eye on that. And Drew said, hey, I'll make a prediction for you guys. I think a 206 will get caught this week, and hopefully it's by him and his team. That's
interesting, because they do have different buy-ins as well for the individual pots, whether it's a catch and release, bringing in big wave fish. We've seen some big, massive blue marlin caught now in the SFC. Everybody's looking for blue marlin, but we are a catch and release organization. We tie into the local tournaments where you can actually bring in one of those big fish. And just a couple of weeks ago, I think Molly caught one of the biggest we've seen in quite some time.
Yeah, over 770 pounds, Robbie. They were, it was a tournament out of Orange Beach, but they still ran to some of these grounds. I actually know the specific rig. I'm not going to give it out right this second. We'll save it for maybe later in the show, especially when we see some of our teams lingering in that region. I know Southern Charm is aware of where that was. They had success in that region, but where that rig is, where some of these altimetries and the Hiltons navigate, all of these different readouts that we're getting the last few days out in the Gulf, it's going to determine. Some of these people might be on those same rigs, and it might be a little crowded in these sweet spots. There is a fine line between bad water and good water this week in the Gulf.
Well, that's one of the things of the Rising Suns. You talk about them having to work on that boat as we look at this 11-event schedule. We actually had to swap some things around, and the Gulf Coast Masters will be held next week instead of a week ago. But 5 Gulf Division events, and now they're going to start hitting their stride. I mean, back-to-back-to-back weekends. I mean, it's now or never for these guys, and they kind of got to get on that roll.
Yeah, a lot of the rumblings at the meeting last night, the captain's meeting registration was, hey, this is stop 2 of the Gulf, but it's really stop 1 of the gauntlet this week. Obviously, Gulf Coast Masters next week, ECBC the following week. If you have success this week, you're hopeful for next week's tournament. If you don't have success, this is basically chalk it up as a pre-fishing week, and you can maybe build into it the next 2, because before you know it, Robbie, we'll blink, and there'll only be 1 stop left in the Gulf Division for the $100,000 payday for that team in the Gulf, and on our way to $1 million this year.
Absolutely. We were watching these boats take off this morning, doing a good job keeping it single file until they don't have to anymore. And that's where the bigger, stronger motors, that made me think of Rising Suns having to repair their boat. We're going to be seeing them. They were in the field last year. Let's take a look back at 2022. And it's important to get to those fishing grounds first if you think that's going to be a hot spot. A lot of the same teams we saw last year are in this year's field as well.
Yeah, like I said, Robbie, the teams that really had success in our Gulf Division overall for the SFC and for this specific event, they are prepared to try to reclaim the title. It's been a few years since it's changed hands. It just takes time. 3-time winner, looking to go 4 in a row, the team out of Orange Beach, and I know all of these other ones, Southern Charm. There's a lot of teams that maybe not SFC tournaments that we've had the last couple weeks. They've been fishing in tournaments, gaining that momentum and gaining confidence that where they're going today could lead to either the first one or the most blue marlin and billfish this week.
Absolutely. Looking back, there's Rising Suns on a different boat this weekend. Their boat's still not ready and able. Another borrowed boat, but maybe they can have some success in different machinery.
Yeah, let's kind of take our mindset back, Robbie. It seems like we've been doing SFC tournaments for the last 5 or 6 years now, but we really got introduced to Rising Suns. Teams like All In, Skin Deep, Bandito, Quantified, all of those teams, we really got an introduction to them at this event and at Grand Isle last year, but it feels like we've known them forever. Honestly, the word in the Gulf is these teams are the best, and that's why we're covering them. Teams like Rebecca that may have struggled last year, they're back on the good train this go around.
Yeah, Rebecca with 1 blue marlin. It just takes time. Came to the Point Cadet Marina. They were on top. 56 total blue marlin caught. You see 8 white marlin, and that 8 that 8 number is important because one of those white marlin was It Just Takes Time. And even though Necessity caught the first blue of the tournament, got that extra 100 bonus points, that white marlin worth 125 gave them the victory. So It Just Takes Time, looking to go back to back to back to back champions.
Oh, they definitely want the prize there. 2020, get it kicked off there during a weird year in terms of what was going on in the world. 2021, they knocked it out. Last year, the pressure was really on them. When you win 3 now, if you don't win this year, it's A-okay. You already did something that not many teams do, Robbie, winning 3 in a row. 4 in a row, that's unprecedented.
Absolutely, and I know, and I was wrong. I was corrected at the end of half a buck with their back-to-back-to-back wins in the Atlantic, kicking things off. But it just takes time. Who could make it a 4-peat this week in Mississippi? But the billfish we're looking for, yes, but the championship fish we're looking for as well. The championship division, 4 different species we're looking for. The wahoo, the mahi-mahi, the big-eyed tuna, and the yellowfin added for 2023, or excuse me, the big-eyed tuna added for 2023. So a lot of opportunity for an extra $50,000 each.
I think there are some teams that are all in on the billfish pots and they're going for those fish, Robbie, but there are plenty of teams thinking about the tuna, especially since it was brought in. You know, even though it's in the same water that may be used in other tournaments, this tournament claims the title for the biggest yellowfin tuna last year. People have that on their radar. I've heard that wahoo, good ones, aren't that far off the coast this year, so maybe on the way out, maybe on the way back, some of these teams may put a championship division fish in the boat.
Absolutely. All 4 species are out in those waters. But make sure you tune in to the SFC, of course, when we're on the air, but also catch all the action. Get your phone, hit that little QR code, and find out more about Sport Fishing Championship. We'll be on CBS Sports Network the next few days.
SFC coverage of the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic is sponsored by Frito-Lay, Michelob Ultra, Denison Yachting, and by Salt Life.
When it comes to performance, comfort, and functionality, we've got you covered. Performance apparel designed by anglers to make your time on the water better than ever. Salt Life, the official apparel sponsor of the Sport Fishing Championship.
Whether you like to ride the wind, find your secret cove, or reel them in. Plot your paradise with GPS Map Series from Garmin.
This spring, settle in and reconnect with one another. South Padre Island has so many great places to stay. Condos, resorts, and hotels. Oh my! Book your spring getaway today. And start making memories poolside with the people you care about most. Visit SoPadre.com.
When you're serious, you are as excited to wake up for a 4 a.m. fishing trip as you were when you were a kid. It means winning 3 World Sailfish Championships. It means you know what you need and what you don't. Being serious means seeking out the ultimate fishing machine, which is what Peter Miller has found in the unmatched handling, speed, and comfort of an Invincible.
Pine tar, bay rum, all natural, all natural.
It's time for your old soap to take a
hike with Dr. Squatch, the best natural men's soap, deodorant, shampoo, and so much more.
Dr. Squatch is for players like Justin Herbert, who are here to shake things up, who break records and hearts, who are tough on the outside and soft on the skin side, who only use natural performance enhancement and want their end zone to be fresh.
Go to drsquatch.com today. Feel like a man, smell like a champion.
Are you ready for the ultimate luxury fishing experience? Join the Sport Fishing Championship talent on the SFC Experience, where you'll explore incredible fisheries and enjoy world-class hospitality from diverse cultures and SFC partner locations. With the SFC Experience, you'll create unforgettable memories with friends, families, or colleagues. Book your trip today and embark on the adventure of a lifetime with the SFC Experience.
SFC coverage of the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic is sponsored by BioLite, Publix, Durabright, and by Hop Water, a non-alcoholic sparkling hopped water.
It's our 5th stop of the Sport Fishing Championship. Really, it's only our 4th event of the year, but we're hoping this crowd looks even bigger and better than this year. Look at last year, man. Point Cadet Marina in Biloxi, Mississippi. They were loaded watching these boats come in both Friday and Saturday. They had that same opportunity this year as well. I believe that's the 27th running of the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic. Some big fish have been weighed across those scales in years past. I believe up to 800-pounders as well. If they catch a big like that, I surely want to see it. Robbie Floyd and Ronnie Moore here with you. Ronnie's on site. The weather looks good out there on the fishing waters. As we heard, they're going to be making runs up to 150, maybe 200 miles. They took off this morning at 11 o'clock, and they will have until what time on Saturday? I think scales close at 6 p.m. They have to be inside that Mississippi Sound area, Ronnie, to be counted as a qualified team. Bandito, one of our featured
Robbie, as we
teams.
look at Bandito out there this morning.
Yep, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say they took that shortcut through the more western side of the islands. It was a crowded single file takeoff this morning, maybe trying to gain a little bit of advantage, maybe going somewhere shallower to maybe catch that first blue marlin and get points. But last year, we really got introduced to this rowdy team, but they are serious about some billfish.
Captain Chad Solomon putting him on the fish as always. Getting one of our featured teams, showing you how it's done, bringing in those teasers.
Yeah, we're clear. Nice and easy. Keep
The discussion between these teams and mates and crew and captain, we always seen Corky Thomas, but we also saw Ashley Wade, Tucker Wade with fish catches throughout the season as well. Tucker, the young buck, Ashley's showing you the correct form, and everybody else just sitting back and watching how to get it done.
It's cool to see these people grow up in front of you. We talk about the young anglers, the families. Chad talked about it last year. Their owner-operator team, they're all in on participating, be a part of the whole process. And to see Lil Tucker grow up a little bit long, I think he's into girls now, Robbie. He's getting old enough that he cares about how he looks on camera, so we'll keep an eye on that this season.
He's 15. He's supposed to be in that direction. Let's see, watching this go down again for one of our featured teams, Bandito. This was last year. They would finish at a tie for 6th place. 2 blue marlin, and they got it on camera. Pointed out, Bandito again making that run, cutting through the landmass there. Southern Charm went the other direction. They're out there. Miss Badonkadonk, Rising Suns qualified, Rebecca. These are some of our featured teams. We have, I think, 6 or 8 of our cameras on boats, but we have several other boats that have satellite technology that if they catch fish, we're going to be jumping into their channel as well.
Yeah, Robbie, you see right there the boat with the American flag. That's actually my rig. I just let a team use it this week because I had to be on site here on land. I let them go out there and take care of it. But no, some of the best vessels you'll see in all of the ocean competing this week, some of the most skilled teams. I'm really interested to see the strategy after talking to some of them at registration, talking to Tom Hilton, seeing all the different readouts that we have to our, to their advantage, and also all of their graph and sonar abilities. I'm interested to see where they land and who lands on them.
Yeah, and the locations. I know we had that one team just a moment ago talking about Green Canyon. That's a run. If you want to go a little bit further than that, just south of that, deeper into the Gulf, Walker is just below that. We heard Mississippi Canyon a fair amount last year as well. But you see these boats running in single file, but you're seeing a lot of waves breaking there as well. So it could be a rough ride for quite a while for these teams.
Yeah, Robbie, there was a few teams that I talked to, and one of them said, hey, we're prepared to go to Texas waters today. We want to be one of the first teams that gets out in the parade, one of the first single-file boats that we can have at least the cleanest sailing waters possible and get out in front of the group. So long runs, maybe it'll pay off. You're going to want to empty those fuel bladders on the way, create some space so you can fight some blue marlin, white marlin, and sailfish all weekend long. And so I'm interested to see who goes all the way to Texas. That'll be one thing to keep note of.
Speaking of Texas, we see one of our featured teams out there. I know, well, I'm going to change from Texas, and I'm going to think about a Louisiana team. Team Rising Suns, the Berthalots, Captain Jimmy Crochet, a.k.a. Cricket. But looking back last year, one of our first taste of this team, and they got it done at each and every stop. That's why they were consistently in this championship till the very end, and they had some bigs on as well.
Yeah, one thing we learned about Team Rising Suns, no matter who's in the seat, obviously Jacelyn's going to get a lot of the attention, but Toby, her father, the whole crew, when you have Captain Cricket leading the whole boat, you know that they're going to be well prepared and excited for the tournament season. They went to Tift at the end of the year, a tournament they had never been a part of in Texas. We see them in the DR. We see them down in Miami. We see them all over. They are all in on the SFC, these formats, and just fishing as much as they can for the most prize money possible.
Adam Peebles on board Al Jazra this year, but Alex Diaz, that's a new one as well, with Alex being on there, helping out, working as an angler as well as a mate. Just an added little touch, something different than last year, hoping to improve on their standings this year as well.
Yeah, that's when you get like the mate of the year. I can't remember, he was in that running for mate of the year, Alex Diaz was. When you add that to your crew, it only makes them stronger. Now
looks like we may have lost Ronnie for just a second there. Again, we are in 2 different parts of the world, but you're seeing how Rising Suns got it done once again. Now you see the little apparatus to cut those lines there, but also we have to keep in visual contact. Now we have our own camera crew. You see Toby there with video evidence as well of these catches. Ronnie Moore's not the only one down there in Mississippi. Katie Sawyer is as well, and she knows her stuff around the world, but also on the research side of things. She was able to break things down and do a little special for us here at the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic.
I'm sitting here with Dr. Jim Franks, the Senior Research Scientist for the USM Center of Fisheries Research and Development Center.
We've been part of this tournament for many years and collecting biological samples. It's always been very exciting. We're happy to share some of what we've been doing with you today.
Perfect, let's go.
We realized all the great fish that were being brought to the docks during the first year of the tournament, and the opportunity to sample was just too great to not become involved. So we developed a team of samplers and biological collectors at that time from our center here, and we've been sampling at the dock on those great fish for the past 25 years or so.
Once we have our samples on the dock back in the lab, we look a lot at their life history characteristics, so their age, growth, reproduction, as well as looking at their diet so we can see what they're feeding on. And then we do take some fin clips and they get sent off for genetic analysis for different studies as well for stock population assessments and things of that nature.
But there's always a need for additional information and data to help better understand those stocks, and that's why we continue to sample.
And why is it important to better understand those stocks?
Well, they're so important to the overall ecosystem. They're high-level predators, of course, but it's also extremely important to the sport fishery itself, the big game fishing. Ultimately, the goal is to provide data that can ensure the continuity of sustainability of these great fish.
Well, on behalf of the Sport Fishing Championship, we really appreciate everything you do with this tournament.
Thank you,
and your
Katie.
research center. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for being here with us today. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
In Puerto Rico, we call ourselves Boricua. We're proud, passionate, and full of life. On our island, adventure finds you. Strangers aren't strangers for long. The size of the audience doesn't change the beauty of the music, and we celebrate every last ray of sun. Live Boricua.
Salt Life, the official sunglass partner of the Sport Fishing Championship.
Well, we're waiting.
I'm alright. Don't nobody worry about me. You got to give me a fight. Why don't you just let me be? Catch a leg.
Hey y'all, I'm Amanda Shaw. We all know Louisiana is as fun as all get out. So get out, take a road trip, and explore our state. Fill her up, then try a new restaurant that's as fun-loving as it is food-loving. Grab the family and take off for monumental adventures at our 21 state parks. Or take a magical minivan tour along our 19 scenic trails and byways. Louisiana's a trip. Take one today.
This is Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. Plan your road trip at LouisianaStaycation.com.
Whether you like to ride the wind, find your secret cove, or reel them in. Plot your paradise with GPS Map Series from Garmin.
When you're serious, you are as excited to wake up for a 4 a.m. fishing trip as you were when you were a kid. It means winning 3 World Sailfish Championships. It means you know what you need and what you don't. being serious means seeking out the ultimate fishing machine, which is what Peter Miller has found in the unmatched handling, speed, and comfort of an Invincible.
SFC coverage of the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic is sponsored by Garmin, Invincible Boats, Visit South Padre Island, and by SFC Experience.
27th annual Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic. I got a special guest with us here in Biloxi, Mississippi. Governor Reeves, great to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Oh, what an awesome day it is here. The weather's fantastic. And some people ready to go fishing.
Word through the grapevine is some of the locals saw you here in Biloxi. Were you here doing the opening of season?
Yeah, no, we were doing the opening of shrimping season, praying over the boats and all the fishermen that were going to go out. Obviously, the blue economy is incredibly important to Mississippi. It's not only important to the people down here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but it's important to the economic environment down here on the Gulf Coast. And we're just blessed to have a lot of people here that do great things.
Well, the economic environment's one thing, especially for fishermen. We want to see more money coming to the environment, coming to these sports, but also for the state of Mississippi. There's a lot of momentum in this state for people and businesses coming to this great area.
We have tremendous momentum in Mississippi. We've seen record capital investment in our state. We had the largest economic development project in Mississippi history announced in 2022. It's an exciting time to be in Mississippi. Our educational attainment levels are going up every single year.
Other than education and business growth, a big things for states is sports and athletics. Seems like Mississippi's on a roll as well. College baseball season's right here among us. You got the last two champions of college baseball in this state. You got Southern Miss hosting a super regional. Those stick and ball sports are awesome, but when you see all these boats in the big money competitions, there's a team here in this field trying to go back to back to back, just like the state of Mississippi in baseball.
No doubt. Southern Miss to the top this weekend. Let me begin with that. But look, what's happening here is incredible. We've got a lot of folks from out of state that are coming in here. They're spending money in our state. But this Gulf of Mexico is important to Mississippi. It's important to Mississippians because it's all about quality of life. You can go up and down this coastline, and everybody might not have a boat of this size and this magnitude, but everybody loves to fish. Everybody loves to take their kids out on the weekends, and it's a big reason why companies are locating here is because of that quality of life.
We've talked about it before. The people that live on these Gulf cities are resilient. They're obviously the heartbeat of Mississippi. Governor Reeves, I appreciate you coming out and blessing the fleet and everything for today's tournament.
Oh, it's awesome to be here, and thank you for being here in Mississippi. We're honored to host you.
Please tell me, Ronnie, when you met him for the very first time, you had to go, "Hello, Governor." Did you give him one of those?
I did not give him that, but the second he stepped out of his truck with his security, I saw his shirt and I knew he was one of us. I knew he was a fisherman, an outdoorsman, and he was excited to be around all of these vessels. Obviously, the water and these cities on the Gulf mean a lot to the state of Mississippi.
As we're looking at Miss Mason this morning, the first day of the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic, you heard the governor talk about the blue economy. We see that with blue tide in Puerto Rico. It is a big factor here in the Gulf of Mexico as well. Miss Mason, it doesn't look like, at least at this particular time, they were too far from Badonkadonk, and it looks like they're trying to catch those bait fish to catch the big fish later. Good to see that rod boat up there, Ronnie. I mean, it might not be the big fish, but it might be a fish that catches that big one later.
Well, that's the biggest thing, Robbie. You just think about the billfish, you think about how they're going to target those. That's the whole game plan. We get consumed with that, but there are steps along the way. You need to go to the fuel dock. You need to get prepared there. You need to do your rods and reels, your line. You need to cut your bait. You need to get ready for that. You also need to go catch your bait and keep it alive every day. Those tuna tubes, so essential to keeping the oxygen in those in the gills of these fish, because that's what you're going to use to catch blues.
And you see the size of those fish. You see as he puts them in that tuna tube. Yeah, the fish still breathing. The gills are covered. Everything else, you saw a smaller variety on the near side. Whatever size bait that go in those tuna tubes, and they are keeping those very, very healthy. Where are we going next out in our Garmin
That's the key.
tracker? We see where these guys are in the Gulf of Mexico looking for billfish as well as championship fish, the wahoo, mahi-mahi, big-eye tuna, and the yellowfin tuna we saw last year. Drew Phillips with an over 200-pounder. We already have a tuna on the board, Ronnie, in our Sport Fishing Championship. That was back at the Louisiana Gulf Coast Billfish Classic, 147 and change. Is that going to hold up, you think, with Rising Suns and Jason LeBlanc?
Rising Suns does not want that to get broken, but every prediction at the docks, 160, 180, 185, 206, a lot of these teams think we will see a bigger tuna than that come in.
And that fish won them some extra money on the local side. Again, we partner with the best tournaments from around the country, around the world. So they won some coin from that fish already. And if it's the biggest yellowfin tuna at the end of the season, they'll win an extra $50,000 with the Sport Fishing Championship. Earlier today, Rising Suns out there trying to catch them some bait as well. That's not going to win you anything, Toby. But maybe those will, because maybe they catch the bigger fish. You got to go up the food chain, don't you, Ronnie?
100%. 100%. Just like you're the big tuna of our crew, Robbie, I'm the little bait fish. I might catch a smaller billfish. Maybe I'll get thrown back in the water, but you're the big tuna that we want to keep on board.
Those sabiki rigs are awesome because you throw them out there and you don't catch one, you catch multiples. The first time I'd ever seen that, I'm like, what in the wide, wide world of sports is this? But then you can catch a big one on a single bait hook, and that's really what they're looking for to throw in those tuna tubes.
Yeah, and the one big thing, you know, boats, they're all equipped to do what they do out there, but Rising Suns, like we mentioned, in a different vessel. I think it's Grander Sunrise. They've been using that the last few tournaments, waiting for their boat to get finished. The one big difference that Toby and Jacelyn told me before they left the dock, they don't have those permanent tuna tubes that they're used to that hold a dozen or more tunas. They have portable ones that they have stowed elsewhere. So catching the bait, this part of it, this is the one uncomfortable thing. It's a little bit different than their normal protocol.
Yeah, you can see them right there releasing in the live well, but typically on the back there, we would see tubes like we saw in Miss Mason just a moment ago, where they would put those fish upside down in the water and make it really easy access. So yeah, there's just one little difference, but that could be a big difference. Just kind of get out of your routine. But if they've been fishing in that boat for a couple of weeks, they're used to it by now.
100%, and they actually have them located out of the way for those billfish fights. They are tucked up towards the couches and the living quarters of the boat compared to right in the corners in the back of the rig. So a little bit of different adjustments, but they said, hey, we appreciate the ability to have a vessel to use this week.
We saw Bandito earlier with their first blue marlin. Now let's take a look at the second blue marlin catch from last year. Again, they're out there again in 2023 trying to catch the big one.
We need 28 out of you, Court. We need 28, baby. Let's go, Court. We're getting close, guys. We're getting close.
You hear the crew cheering on Corky as he's trying, obviously fighting that fish from last year. But like we mentioned and complimented Rising Suns on this, Bandito's all in as well, following us in the Gulf, doing everything they can to maybe get that 100,000 Gulf Team of the Year prize, and then also having a shot going into the last event for the $1 million prize. Bandito, hey, at least you can say, Robbie, as these guys are anglers. They are fishermen, and they're out here every weekend.
Absolutely. There's Corky Thomas over here. Come on, Court. Coming up, pal. Got 28 in you. You can do this. Yeah, Bandito based out of Orange Beach, traveling in a 71 Viking.
Robbie, I love and admire the community. We're communicators, Robbie. We do it on a daily basis. But to hear Chad lead the boat saying, hey, back it up, those subtle, back it up, and then you hear the urgency in his voice, changing those octaves, especially for teams not on a headset, so crucial to that portion of it right there when it all comes to fruition.
Absolutely. You saw as soon as that leader came up there tight, you see the leader right there. They rolled it. He makes contact with that. They pop it off, spit the bit, and get to go out there and do it again. They would not catch another one, though. On Bandito, they had those two blue marlin worth 700 points. It was good enough for a tie for sixth place. And when I say a tie for sixth place, I mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams tied for that sixth place spot.
And I think that's what's huge when it comes to these big Gulf events, with a lot of people thinking about the blue marlin. If you can catch a bonus sailfish or white marlin, it's going to be huge in breaking all those ties.
Ronnie, the top of the hour. We're moving from the web to CBS Sports Network, 4 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you join us for the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic. They say big fleet, big money, big competition. We don't have officially or unofficially our first catch of the day. They've been running. They released at 11 o'clock. Ronnie, you ready to do it for CBS? Let's do it. Again, 80-plus boats head out for $1.5 million plus in prizes. It will be paid out after Saturday, and we will crown our second Gulf champion. Again, stick with us on CBS Sports Network at the top of the hour for the Mississippi Gulf Coast Billfish Classic. We'll see you then.